What was really, really pleasing is this pile of flower petals and how many everybody participated. Always in a certain time when you know there is a cycle or a ritual in place. I had the privilege of seeing this in 1975, how this cycle would operate as we run over probably till February or March of 2014. And I wrote about it in Saved by the Light. So 19 years ago, when what Allie's looking at is what happened to you then and what do you need to change. Well, I was thinking about Saved by the Light came out in 1994. And I became the rock opera Daniel. The only thing that I don't think that's changed about me is my attitude. So when I was thinking about what I needed to change is my attitude, okay? Because if you know you don't die and you know you don't go to hell, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? So from 1975 till 2013, in my 19-year problem, I've developed an attitude about the fact that people try to scare people into be afraid of that they think they're going to die. It ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. Okay? Well, think about all that life insurance you paid in when you start to think about that it's never really going to happen, everybody. Okay, so what does this sacred period, why did we come to Sedona? Why did we pick this time between a full moon and an eclipse and a series of planets where Venus is and where three planets come together to create almost another star, a triangulation? Well, if you were into the mystical business, you could probably track this back. Maya, in the Maya, you could track it back to 3114 BC. To the 16th and 17th century mystics, you can trace it back that this is the cleansing period. This is it. So we come to Sedona. For everyone who sits in this audience, for everybody who's listening in the world tonight, this is your chance. This is your chance. What are you holding on to that's keeping you from succeeding? Mine is being an asshole. Okay? I don't have any problems about it. There's no problems. You know, this is my biggest problem. If I'm not going to die and I'm not going to go to hell and I've tried it 3 times, well, you know, hey, wait a minute. Okay, so you're going to try to scare me with some pain. Well, okay. My nose didn't get moved to my ear. Okay? Thank goodness, because I'd had to work really hard to look good. And I'd spent all my money on plastic surgery and stuff. But what happened is this. 19 years ago, I decided based on an interaction between Dr. Raymond Moody. In 1975, when I was struck by lightning, I was dead for 28 minutes, completely paralyzed for 6 days, partially paralyzed for 7 months. It took me 2 years to learn to walk and feed myself. And I was moving in and out of dimensions over that next year. And because Dr. Raymond Moody, who was writing a book called Life After Life, which named the near-death experience, was going to medical school in the hospital that they brought me to. So you say, oh, guy in the emergency room, he had no heart, he had no pulse, no respiration, and no EKG. They covered him with a sheet. They pushed him in the room, and Raymond thought, well, wonder if this guy had a NDE. Well, yes. Didn't have a name. Didn't have all the history and culture. Didn't have a religious connection. He was just a guy who had heard about this as he became a philosophy teacher. And he had a couple of kids who would talk about this experience philosophically. And one of Raymond's professors was George Ritchie, who was an eminent psychiatrist, who was a professor at the University of Virginia School of Psychiatry for people who wanted to go from doctors to psychiatry. And I met Raymond. And the world started, and how I became infamous Daniel was I would defend Raymond. I am the most cynical, skeptical, please. But it happened to me. And here was Raymond, a quiet, wonderful, really funny, brilliant guy who people would target him. And all he was doing was putting his research out there. So one day Raymond called me, Louise called me, and she said, listen, Raymond's overworking himself and he doesn't want to talk to groups and they're attacking him pretty bad. Would you help? I said, sure. And so I ended up spending 20 years with Raymond and watching the evolution of what we now call the near-death experience. So in 1994, they came and wanted to create this, about every 2 years, dead people come back into style. We have a tornado, a hurricane, we have a tsunami, a nuclear reactor blows up. Sacred ceremony with this coffee. And we all have to kind of get a grip on this thing. So every 2 years or so, we get famous. So I was looking back through 19 years when I thought that death was really, really important in 1994. We were in a war. We were defeating Saddam Hussein. We were looking at part of what I wrote in Saved by the Light, the predictions and the prophecies. I described the war in 1975. I just put it in the book in 94. And there was a point where we were watching the trust and the love and the safety we thought what we went to war for. We went to war for business. And we who came from the Vietnam era saw it instantly. And then those who went through Desert Storm saw it instantly. So when I saw this opportunity to write this book, because Raymond was driving me crazy, because he thought that since I'm the ultimate dead guy, and it happened on his watch in school, it became necessary to draw from the reinforcement of a guy from 1977 with Raymond until 1994, when Raymond was venturing into the next level. So that's how I got to my 1994 period. So what I'd like everybody to do is to take a deep breath. Think about what you let go of. What's keeping you from achieving your goal? What's keeping you? In 19 years, nothing keeps me from achieving my goal. Not even me. So I already know the answer to what's keeping you from achieving your goal. You. Now, you couldn't get rid of yourself in a pile of flower leaves. But you could symbolically put it into a place that in a ceremony, in an exacting tradition from last night till Sunday night, you could gather into a place, focus on that intention, and follow an ancient ritual and tradition to show the universe and the old systems, not quantum theoretical mechanics, but the old systems where you aligned with 7.8 hertz, where you looked into the skies like what we do when we go to Maya land, what we do when we go look at what the Maya. And then on top of this 19-year period, everybody, we're in the 400-day period between the 13th Baktun and the 14th Baktun in the Mayan calendar. And people say, well, so the Mayan calendar, the world didn't end in December the 21st, 2012, so that's all BS. And, all them son of a guns still in them silos, them missile silos, them preppers. Don't you know if those preppers didn't have them a transistor radio, they all still down there. I can't wait to go and tap. You can come out now. Okay, so when it didn't happen, people say, well, The Mayas were all crazy. It was all doomsday. Blah, 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 blah. Well, listen. They said, well, why was there not a Mayan period after December 21st, 2012? And why is there no records of it? And we all act like it's like some big deal. Well, wonder why there's no records of what happens after 2012. The Spanish came. They burned everything. They considered them less than human, and they rationalized to work those people in fields and mines and go to death. Then they had to make them sacrifices. That they did sacrifices like the early Hebrews, but the church, the Holy Roman Catholic Church and the Spanish, were right in the middle of something called the Inquisition. See how it starts to fit? You got a bunch of people who can plot the stars that need to be saved by Jesus. Hallelujah, Lord God. You know, think about a bunch of fundamentalist priests looking for some gold rings and the Inquisition coming to Mesoamerica. Think about it. The only chance that the that the Spanish had against the native nations was some bearded guy had gotten there before them and said he'd come back. But they called him the Feathered Serpent and gave him 6 or 7 names. You know, I think it was Leif Erikson, you know what I'm like. You know, or maybe it was some of them Chinese and one of those. And, you know, the Chinese came to America first, and it's proven, there's no question, the first ones here were the Norwegians, the Vikings, and the Chinese sailed all the way around, and they got maps of it. We don't let that out because we don't want people to know that the Chinese got to San Francisco first, but hell, we got Egg Foo Young out of it. So I would like to bring up, for a moment, a Mayan person. And that based on the fact that the Spanish destroyed everything, and based on the fact that the Mayas believed that in less than, from December 21st, 2012, you had 400 days. And in the 9th wave of power, you can reconstruct your life. And then the next 50 years, because it's in 52-year cycles, is about, I call it compassionate courage. But I got outvoted and it became courageous passion. So now we must cleanse the 19-year cycle. We must end this 400-day period before the next world starts, which 400 days, so we're in January or early February. Well, when I look at that from a point of looking at the prophecies, in October of this year, we have affordable health care kicks into place. And the programs at DARPA are being designed to combine your health records with your IRS statement, with the Homeland Security, and in a DNA database. This is what DARPA's doing. Okay? So what the Mayas say is when you end the period we just ended, called the galactic period, that you would realize you were not alone. Because they'd searched the heavens. We have the Galileo telescope, we have the Copernicus telescope, we have Hubble telescope, we finally got it fixed. And we've mapped the universe. There are 10 trillion planets and stars. 10 trillion planets and stars. At the end of the cycle, 12 countries released their UFO information that said we're really not alone, and when you want to really get down to it, in 2004, If you saw a UFO, and Catherine takes pictures of them all the time, okay, and you saw a UFO, you were considered possessed by a demon by the church. Well, the same head exorcist, in 2011 came out and on national Italian television said that you were no longer possessed if you saw a UFO. And he also said that you were no longer not possessed, that they not only existed and there were extraterrestrial people in the universe, he had met them. Now, I don't know if the galactic period's working really well for the Catholic Church. I mean, you know, because what got me about the priest, head exorcist, he said he can't wait to teach them little green men about Jesus. Now that's some funny stuff. So here we are in 2013, ending a 19-year cycle, and I'm going to try to be nicer. It's going to be a tough job because I have a hard time being nice and pleasant. Take a breath. Relax. He can hear me. I got this covered. I'm getting instructions. Okay? And what is so delightful about getting instructions is who's giving them. Because if you think you can tell me what to do, first, you're funny. Second, you need a lobotomy. And then I look at who's telling me what to do, and I can't wait to do it. So in the tradition of the Mayans in this 400-day period, because Karen is smart, I'd like to bring somebody up, Junior. His name is Francisco Lopez Cordoba Montenegro, Mayan boy. Mucha, a Mayan. Let's give him a hand. No, not yet.
I don't know how to use a microphone.
He's a liar.
So good evening. So it's really exciting to be here. And
Francisco, everybody.
Mama, sister, I finally met one of my sisters. Yes, so we met in Yucatan. Yes, what Daniel was saying. And about this culture, what they have discovered. So they meet so like many questions about my people. And I'm here to bring a message, okay, to all of them. One of them, the first message is to Mama. She says to tell you that she loves everyone. They had a chance to meet Mama, the real Mama. Okay, so, and of course, Karen, where are you? Here. So, my darling, thank you too. So I'm really excited to be here. And some of the questions that I had yesterday is like, the Egyptians had communication with the Maya, or the Maya had communication with the Egyptians. The answer was here. It just got into my hand just half an hour ago. So thank you, Joyce. So there is something that I have learned, and I'm still learning. I'm also the shaman of the Mayan area, so I know what we are doing. So these things that about the four corners to open the gates, they are already open. People are really awakening about this, so all the beliefs about the faith and to leave all the bad things. So,
no, not all the bad things. We have to keep a few of the bad things, I mean.
I don't want to tell you mine. What I'm thinking. So, no, really, it's a pleasure, really, to be here. So, this is my third time, and this is, like we said, third time, and I'm here. All right, so
it's a charm. Third time is a charm.
Yeah, so full moon great energy. I've been really enjoying the place. Sedona, it's fantastic. And this is the place where I have discovered also many answers, some things that I've been asking to myself, just like why I've been through so many situations, some painful ones, but pain I have understand that has been giving me and teaching me things, okay? So to see my brother, to see my father passing, going to the next life, to the next level, I was first regretting, I was really complaining about that till somebody taught me that there is a reason to be here, okay? So, gracias. So I will say something in Maya, which is my language, okay? So just thank everyone. So, yung botik mentales wali awile shetie maka yetenuti ala wikesh bash kuno yatesh wash kuno kansicho. So thank you for being here, for being with Daniel, to listen to him, and all what we've been learning, and there's a long way to go. So, thank you.
So we planned it. Allie brings the four corners and the four energies together. Take a breath. Come on. This will get funny if you breathe. If you don't breathe, it will not be funny. So let's get to the funniest part about all of this. Let's set an intention. We have let go. She set up a ceremony, and I hope that everybody takes a chance to look at it. That don't just put your leaves down or your petals down, but to look at how hard she worked to set it, so it's set in the frequency, the tradition, and the shamanic ways of a shamanatrix. And remember, the feminist power rules based on the Maya for the first part in 400 days. From December the 21st, the feminine power takes control. That's it. The talking part's done. Every 5,125.38 years, courageous compassion and empathetic perspective takes hold. We birth and age with love and light. So what I'm trying to tell you is, hey guys, you better pay attention. And hey girls, tone it down just a little bit. Only say it 19 times before you get really mad. So I was flipping through the book while Junior was up here. This is Jewels for the Soul. This is by Catherine. And you have to set an intention. Breathe, please breathe. Don't you think I can tell when you're not breathing? I mean, this is sacred, and we're doing a ceremony and a ritual that has each component to it. Think about it. It's thought out. It's taken from the ancient times to the modern times into the future times. And we chose to be here in honor of people who gave their lives, men and women who in honor gave their lives so that we could have a weekend off. And in that weekend off, we have honored them. We've held it sacred. We're holding the light for veterans and people who are going through coming home and who are being taken care of, and traumatic and polybrain trauma and traumatic injury. The little princess that was up here decided after her near-death experience that she would help veterans with TBI and post-traumatic stress disorder, help find them ways themselves to realign. She didn't really want to say that, but I'm going to go ahead and say it for her. Because through this experience that I had, I found my way that the most exciting moments I have is when people are taking their last breaths. And people say, well, damn, like Catherine, she says, you know what, your problem is you have an intimacy problem. I'll start, an intimacy problem. She says, you like being around people who are passing because you don't have to love them but a short period of time. And when I thought about it, that makes a lot of sense. So I opened up to this. So as we begin to get really funny, and we laugh because we're not going to die and we're not going to go to hell. We're not going to die and we're not going to go to hell. All right, well, maybe somebody should go to hell. But if it didn't happen to me, it's not going to happen to any of you. Because if somebody was supposed to go to hell, I'm your honey boy, babies. Well, maybe him too, though. Okay, so take a breath. I opened up to radiating my divine nature. The universal law of attraction compels me to align myself, my physical self, with my divine reality. Like attracts like, and as long as I radiate my divine nature in all my daily inner exchanges, see, I gotta quit being such a jerk. It is the law that I bring out. It is the law that I bring out the divine in all people and situations that I encounter. In radiating my divine nature, I light my way for others to follow. So I think that we should start with that this night, so that whatever we were letting go of, we focus on our divine radiant nature, so that we set an example that other people follow and see. We have gathered in the honor of veterans. We brought up on because we're using the Maya tradition in this 400-day period of grace. We're not going to die and we're not going to go to hell. So that means forever just got a hell of a lot longer. And not only that, you're going to be you forever. So when you start to think about it, you better be glad you came down here today, and you better, whoever's out there in internet land, you better be glad that you're sitting there, holding the tradition. We had people who had pedals for people who didn't make it. So let's dream a perfect world. If we're going to change, let's dream a perfect world. So what's a perfect world? What is it? Well, if you're not going to die and you're not going to go to hell, that's a pretty perfect world. And that you're still here breathing, then what's your mission? To radiate your divine self. To be courageously, I'm saying that right? To being courageously compassionate. Find a cause. Find something to serve. Find something that brings you closer to your divine self. And so what should people say? Well, I don't know what my mission is. Well, you have two. You choose to come and you're chosen to come. You're chosen to come because the divine architect believes there's absolutely no one greater than you to be born at this time and at this place and at this moment from the second you were born. No one. Number two, you came because when you are who you are in a spiritual divine self, you are a great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose. So when you're a great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose, don't you think you'd be a little biggity? A little arrogant. I try not to use that because, I think of myself and, I can get it from the dead. So, hey, they say if you cross this path, you can never come back. Yeah. Okay, well, let's cross the path and see. You notice I'm winning and they're losing. So I figured, so what you got to do, guys, is you got to realize that all the problems that you got, you created them. You created them. And why did you create them? So you could figure out how to get out of them. I think of how crazy I must have been on the other side before I was born. I'm going around being arrogant because I'm a great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose. And I ain't worried about nothing. Well, they said, let's say, well, we'll send you down there and we'll give you everything that you could ever possibly want. But we want to see if you can get up from the dead. Well, sure, I can do that. So I come into life Life moves along joyously. I discover everything that made everything about me. And then I perfect the art of making everything about me. And then I realized that everything was really about me. Didn't you? And people say, well, I wasn't arrogant, but when I said you made everything appear to be about you, you made it about other people's opinions of you. You became a constructed model of what other people thought about you, and you molded into an identity. And we're still there until tonight. So whatever happened in 1994, God bless that broken road that got you home to me tonight. Because we set our intention, we use the ancient self, we draw upon the sacred calendar of the Maya, we have a historical place that we can look at it, and we will change. We will change. I might last about 6 days for me, and then I'll catch hold of my normal self again. Well, what they gonna do, kill me? Ha! So I said, this lady, I was thinking the other day, they said, well, Dan, why do you think they would choose somebody like you to come give this kind of message about there's a heaven? I thought about it a minute, and there's only one conclusion you can come to. They were scraping the absolute bottom of the barrel. They had completely run out of messiahs. And they said, I know what let's do. Let's go find us an asshole. And let's pile it all on him, and let's see how well he handles it. Well, y'all can laugh if you want to. That's how you got here. So think about it. And not only that, when you think about it, think about when we decided to live. We decided to live at a transitional period, a period of a 5,128-year cycle, 125-year cycle, in a 25,920-day period based on the birth of an age, that we would find a way to hold it together, that we'd find a way to have a focus, no matter how much cosmology we found in the old age of the galactic cycle. But the galactic cycle also said this: all things done not in integrity would collapse. Well, what happened in 2008, everybody? America disappeared as a nation. It's gone. And a new world is being created. And what collapsed wasn't businesses and governments and banks and the whole system. Collapsed because a person's home was their castle, and the way they handled it, the value of your home, became what gave you the experience and ability to search and travel and do the equity to the fact that you would be living in the street. Knowing that, you would have come. Take a breath. This is really funny, I promise. Because what they're going to do, kill us? So now we live in a transitional period. We should be proud of that. That's courageous compassion. Because we'll hold on to love and hope. We'll hold on to focus. We'll hold on to not giving up and believing in our neighbors. And as we watch everything we trust, how many people trust their banker? How many people trust the government? How many people trust the IRS to take care of your health care? How many? They're collapsing before your very eyes. So the Maya way is working. And what they wrote and what they said and what they did is working. And what we would do is smart enough to gather here on the internet and in this room because we're smart, because we're courageously compassionate, and we're passionately courageous. I didn't know which one it was, honey. Well, I come up with these concepts, but even if you change the words, it has to feel right to me because they come from a place that's beyond where I think from. please, anybody can listen to me and thinks I can figure out all this stuff, they bet ought to kill me. Right, so we're there. So somebody said, well, Daniel, let me ask you this. How come they had to kill you so many times? You didn't get it the first time? Well, here's how I figured it. Yeah, I'm a little hard-headed, you know, hey. I'm a little hard-headed, but... So I figured this, that since I upset the spiritual world pretty well, because I'm still me, I'm still a person that's growing and loving and looking at it, and I'm a hospice volunteer. And I have probably 40,000 hours at the bedside, and I've been with probably 2,006 people going from this world to the next, and 423 when they're taking their last breath. So not only if you kill me will I get interested in the matter, I'm obsessive compulsive, either dead or alive. And if you want to kill me, I will become an expert in it. Ah! So here's what I figure. The Archangel Gabriel and the Archangel Michael and 3 or 4 more of them Sephiroths, they're all down at the angel bar, right? And they're doing cloud shots. And Michael gets so low that he has to put his sword down. Gabriel can't blow a tune. So they're looking at each other and they say, well, what do you think we ought to do? Gabriel says, I got it. Let's go kill Daniel. He was the one talking all that crap when he was over here about getting up from the dead. Well, let's go kill him again. Well, I'm going to promise you, they won. Come on, everybody. The breath is the rhythm. The breath is celebration of joy and happiness because we've gathered at a perfect astrological and a perfect spiritual for the right purpose in honor and Memorial Day and those who have served and in the divinity. So could I ask that everybody in here that's a veteran please stand up? And that would be the 4 corner. When you look at the 4 corners, that those of us who we serve and that we honor on this day, they're here with us. That's all 4 corners, everybody. You can't cast spells tighter than, you can't do ritualistic traditions and ceremonies in such a way that's better than this one. For me, it's a spell. You know, if I got to be over being aggravating and I got to be nice, okay, then I need to cast a spell on me. Don't we all? So when you start to catch a breath now, who do you want to be next? What do you want to do next? We know that October will come and the real battle begins in the 400-day period. Health care. It comes. Are you ready? Do you trust the IRS? No. Do you trust the fact that they will take, what will you not do to protect your children, your parents, and yourself once they control your bank account? And they use your health care to control your bank account? And they can take the money out at their will based on a law that we voted into existence in 2010? You see how crazy we've been in the last 19 years? The last thing we did was sell our souls. Think about it. And that's October. I wrote about it in Saved by the Light, everybody. The chip technology. You can go on Daniel.com and you can look it up, and you can go back 38 years with me. This isn't new to me. Why do you think I created the toilet brigade and become a hospice volunteer? I see what succeeds and what fails. I'm right there just waiting on them. Hello. You didn't get all the demon out of me. Find the rhythm. You couldn't be smarter. You couldn't be more precise. You couldn't chosen a better time and a place to be this night doing exactly what you're doing. I promise that. And we climbed, we clocked it, we precisioned it, we did the work, we brought you together and we created it. Why? We are the tipping scale. We'll tip the scale. We will. We certainly are a ragtag bunch, you know. But we bad. So now, how I got officially indoctrinated into the Swami business was I would take up for Raymond. Well, look, do I appear cosmic to you? I mean, come on, I'm this hayseed fool from South Carolina that woke up dead. Okay, but so I started going around with Raymond and defending Raymond. Why? Because it happened to me and I realized that part of my life was about the fact that, hey, Daniel, if it really happened to you, and little Raymond and sweet little sweetie pie Raymond and doctors yelling at him and people called him names and it was oxygen brain deprivation, temporal lobe seizures and frontal lobe seizures and all these things that the doctors were saying what was causing the near-death experience because it really didn't happen. It was a chemical reaction in the brain and blah, blah, blah. Well, I knew that it wasn't. It wasn't a chemical reaction. For me, it was divine intervention. Okay, because I needed it really bad. So when you think about it, when you listen to what chemistry says and what doctors said, Raymond said, Daniel, what do you think I should do? I said, well, Raymond, you have to understand two things. First, the only difference between God and a doctor is God never thinks he's a doctor. Number two, you have to realize that what those people are telling you and your training and education that you got says that you are living in a dead universe. You are a bunch of chemical reactions. You have no soul. You have no spirit. All you have is a brain, and they can measure the chemical reactions, endorphins and serotonin. That says you are nothing but a pile of meat with a bunch of electrons and protons and neutrons and stuff coming together and reacting. And because they created something called penicillin, we all thought we could become immortal. Until antibiotics came. When you went into renal failure, you went in and said goodbye. You talked a little bit, and in the morning, they were gone. Then we developed these things called antibiotics. And then we could live longer. So, when you, please breathe. If I have to come down there, I mean, I will wear this magazine out. I mean, don't make me have to come down there. I'm trying to learn to be nice. You know, I put my little pedals down. You know, trying not to be such a prick. You're not breathing enough to make me accentuate and gather enough to be divinely inspired. Okay, so here's how it all got started really big. I'm the ultimate dead guy. You know, patient unconscious, patient not breathing, no EKG when they got me into the emergency room. Well, what do you do for that guy? You cover him with a sheet. Push him in the other room and bring the next emergency case in. Okay, that's what happened to me. So I lifted out of my body and went down the tunnel and came in the light and was checking it all out. And everybody says they saw a being of light. Well, I was looking for the devil, because since I was 5 years old, everybody said I was going to hell. And, hey, I must have been on my way, but that punk never showed up. So I decided since he didn't come that time, it didn't worry me the next couple of times. So I want to ask everybody in here, if you ever see the devil, Satan, Lucifer, the morning star, number one, that the devil must have been in the witness protection program. Because that fool got so many names. I got that from Michael. Michael Beckford. Let me say this. That fool's got so many names. Don't y'all love Mikey? The Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith. So we went with Raymond to Washington. And I probably had one of those moods on me. When I basically keep one. And here's Raymond. Now, watch me now. Here's Raymond. Raymond's trying to get people to pay attention to his philosophical psychiatric research. He has a PhD in philosophy. High paid for his medical degree was he taught classes. He was a brilliant philosopher. So he taught classes while he went to medical school. And so we went to Lake Washington. And I always called him the Rain Man because he kind of reminded me of the Rain Man. He had like little clicks and little things he did with his eyes. Anybody ever seen Raymond? Well, then he's rocking. I asked his son one time, I said, your dad has a couple of ticks. And it was Palmer, and Palmer says, ticks? He has a damn orchestra. But that's said in absolute love, because if you ever see Raymond, you'll see him do all that. So we went to Washington, right? So I'm cool. And here's all these people sitting, and Raymond was just pouring his little heart out, and I'm sitting up, I'm digging the scene with a gangster lean. That was a song in the 70s, right? I'm digging the scene. And this guy in the front row started tearing Raymond up. You are no scientist. You're no doctor. There is no proof this stuff could have happened, and you're giving these people false hopes and making them really think they're spiritual beings instead of just a stupid little human being with a bunch of chemical reactions. Well, I would have thought that until 1975 and September 17th. So the greatest cynic, me, I'm watching this guy. And I said, Raym, let me talk to him. I had enough of him. I knew I couldn't whip his ass. Because then I'd have another panoramic life review, and I'd see myself hitting myself in the face, because you got to remember, the best and the worst part about a near-death experience is you're going to have a panoramic life review. You're going to see your entire life pass before you in a 360-degree panorama. Oh, God. Then you're going to watch yourself from a second-person point of view as if you were your own best friend, looking at how close you got to the choices you were going to make. You don't ever get them all right, but you get to see how close. And most of the stuff that you think that you failed at, you didn't. I don't know a number, which is my big thing about numerical perspective, but I don't know. But I know that most of the things that you think you failed at was a part of a series of goals that you set for yourself so that you could pass on certain levels, so you could excel in some of higher, greater importance in your spiritual divine evolution. So you think you may have failed, but you didn't. But when you get over there and you see it for what it was, it's amazing to see what you had given up in your divine nature to become some stupid little human. Oh, God. Then when you see your life pass before you and you watch it from a second-person point of view, the third thing that happens is you become every person that you ever encounter. And you feel the direct results of your interaction between you and everyone you've encountered. Well, you know how many butt whippings I took when I had that? I had hit myself in the face so many times. You can't imagine how bad I had been beating myself up when I became everybody. So here's a guy, I couldn't shoot him. I couldn't hit him with the podium. But I could rough him up. So Raym looked at me and I said, okay. I said, let me ask you something. And I said, who are you? He said, well, I'm a cardiologist. I said, well, you know, that explains why you're having your problem. I said, well, let me ask you something. I said, if I could tell you something that you would admit existed, and it didn't enter into a double-blind study, it didn't replicate itself based on any paradigm protocol that you could create. It didn't do that. And you would sit there and you would admit that it was true. Would not be a possibility that what Raymond, talking to normal people, not scientists or researchers, but a guy that works at a carpet factory, a guy who grabbed a hold to a 13,000 volt line, blew both his legs off and one of his arms off, that was Andy, and he had a near-death experience? And wouldn't you give it some kind of validation? He said, that's not possible. He says, I'm a scientist. That can't happen. I said, well, what do you want to bet? Big boy? And he said, I'll bet anything. I said, well, let me ask you something. Who's that sitting next to you? He said, that's my daughter. I said, you want to bet her life? I said, from here, I can get her and you. Before you can form an opinion, breathe really hard, get an attitude. Nothing you can do. So now we're into the real part of the game. Raymond, he's getting nervous. The guy, he's just measuring because I'm on him. And he said, no, I don't want to bet her life. I said, well, then okay. Show me a handful of love. Show me a double-blind research paradigm protocol, research scientific methodology that would achieve the fact that you could show me that there was love. And you could measure its chemical reactions and biological reactions in any way you want to do it. But if you can't show me a study that can replicate itself under the method that you're engaged in Raymond with, it means you didn't love that daughter of yours. I said, but you didn't want to risk her life because you weren't sure. And his daughter hit him in the side with her elbow, and she said, Daddy, I told you when you didn't buy me that car yesterday, you didn't love me. Ha! So me and Raym became famous. I got to be a jerk that's been dead, and Raym got to be Raym. And then we discovered Paul Perry. And Paul's a little anal retentive. If you know Paul, he squeaks when he walks. I love him to death. But he was the perfect person to have taken the stories of we, the near-deathers, and in the early days of this campaign, he wove them into a fabric. Saved by the Light, at Peace and Light, Embrace, no, that was Betty. What was Melvin's? About children. Melvin Morris wrote a book, Closer to the Light, Parting Visions. These are the remarkable books of a period before we now have 25 million people who's had a near-death experience. Now, near-death experiences is really driving the science. We have Eben Alexander, a neurologist, that he proved, and a guy named Pim van Hummel, a Dutch guy who wrote the definitive book on near-death experiences. And Pim literally debunked everything that I had to deal with when I was just trying to give people a chance to talk about it. He's debunked every bit of that. That's all over. We're now living in an age where science meets spirituality. Nobody dies. We're all connected. We used to hear the yogis in the 60s when we was all smoking pot and we're listening to the Beatles, you know, and dropping acid and listening to Ravi Shankar and all that stuff everybody was doing. And we're all one. We're all one. Well, some Swiss built this place over in Switzerland called CERN, and they were looking for the Higgs boson particle, and they discovered it. And the Higgs boson particle proves there is a matter and a force that science has called dark matter. They discovered in the Higgs boson particle that the particle that everything floats in the universe is not magnetic, and it does not reflect or absorb light. So they took a proton electron bombardment to create an action so it could be measured. So what that means is every one of us are connected. You're connected to every planet. You're connected to every person next to you. And it's now a scientific fact. You can't say that you're not. It's a scientific fact. Well, when you start to put that into place, that means if you're thinking divine thoughts and you're thinking about a better world, you're affecting the person next to you and the person that you don't know. But you're going to be really responsible for that in the panoramic live review. Yeah. You just wait. You're going to love it. So once you start to get a grip on the fact that you're not going to die and that you're not going to go to hell, you have to start getting a grip on what you're living for. And what is the purpose of everybody who's born? What's your divine mission? To have a lot of fun. How do you celebrate joy and happiness? How do you instill hope and aspirations? How do you get people to appreciate the fact that they are equal to you and they've chosen to be here along with you? How do you do it? You think it and have fun. Your intention and your divine self connects with theirs. Take a breath. So now I want to tell you some of the funniest stuff that's happened along the way in the Swami business. They were called life expos and whole life expos. And if you haven't read Saved by the Light, At Peace in the Light, and The Secrets of the Light, and Jewels for the Soul, I highly recommend. And if you haven't read my new book, you need to go on our new book. You need to go on Amazon and order it. I'll say that again. If you have not, it's called 10 Things to Know Before You Go. Aspire to inspire before you expire. And what it is a divine party manual. You open the first page. First page. It says, what's the number one cause of death in America and most other countries? You turn to the next page and it says birth. Number one cause of death is birth. You turn to the next page and it says, remember, if you're breathing, you're leaving. And if you just took a breath, this book is for you. So it's the divine party manual for spiritual beings living in this next 19-year spiritual cycle to create grace and gratitude. How do you create grace and gratitude? Forgiveness. The art to forgive. We all seek to be forgiven, and we all hope we're capable of forgiving. And it's a basic nature in the spiritual identity. Think about it. We all seek to appreciate or to be appreciated. We all seek to admire or to be admired. And we all seek to inspire or to be inspired. That's the only three things you ever do as a spiritual being. Appreciate, admire, and inspire, or be appreciated, be admired, or be inspirational. There is nothing else that you do in your life as a spiritual being here. What gets in the way is this human body. It gets in the way because it has a nature that has to do with gratification and preservation. Everything you do as a human being breathing has to do with gratification and preservation. When you walk up on a group of friends, you find something wrong with somebody because they're probably going to see whatever's hanging out of your nose or your eyelid, or you have, what's that word you use when I put too much lotion on? What's that word when I put lotion all over my face? Copious? Or you're going to have some copious problems. I take the lotion and I squeeze the whole bottle and I put it all over my face, you know, so I stay young and sexy. And so Kat comes out and I have big clumps of that stuff and she says, "Oh, you have a copious amount of lotion on today." Say it again, honey. Say it again. It worked this time for sure. So if we know we're going to appreciate, admire, and be inspired, or we're going to aspire, we're going to admire, and we are going to inspire. Instead of waiting to be appreciated, waiting to be admired, and waiting to be inspired, we're going to appreciate, admire, and inspire. That's the change. And if you focus just on that, your world will change tomorrow night. And for the next 19 years, you will be guided by an inner voice and a nature of yourself that allows you to access levels of consciousness that hasn't been here in 5,000 years, and for sure hasn't been here in the last 19. So if you go back to 19 years ago, and you think of where you were and what you were thinking about, and what do you think you need to appreciate, admire, or be inspired about, or what you appreciated, what you admired, and what inspired you, and how far you've come along that path. Your consciousness will open up to see what's next. It'll be different, but it'll be a lot alike. So now let's roll back into this physical body that gratifies itself and inspires itself. Gratifies itself and preserves itself. Well, let's look at the reality of who you are physically. You are basically just a big bag of water filled with some chemicals. And most of you are just basically water treatment plants. You're 78% water. How long can you go without water? About the same amount of times you can hold your breath. Not very long. So if you're basically a big bag of water, which is what chemistry and what science says you are, well, that's crazy. Because people who have been through a near-death experience knows that's utter nonsense. And people who believe in something other than what penicillin and antibiotics do, and chemical reactions in the body that helps us get away with not taking care of ourselves, and then somebody can give us a pill that'll take care of what we've been doing. because we were having too much fun not taking care of ourselves, or we are avoiding what we knew we should appreciate, what we knew we should admire, and what we knew was inspiring us, but it caused us to have to change. This is how we got, everybody. It's not difficult to see how we got where we are. But think about when you take it one step closer, so I can get really funny and leave you alone for the rest of the night, is this. If you took, we all know that our bodies are basically atoms. And in the atoms in our bodies, we have atoms, we have molecules, and we have cells. So if you take all of the empty space out of an atom, it would be 94.6% empty space. So if you took all the empty space, let's say there's 320 million people that live in America. So if we took all the empty space out of every atom, and then we took all the empty space out of every molecule, which is about 98%. And then we take all the empty space out of every cell, which is about 97.3%. We took all the empty space out of our atoms, our molecules, and our cells. All 320 million of us will fit in a matchbox. That's scientific fact. Do you know how stupid that sounds? That the people who are keeping us well and selling us chemicals and inhalers and drugs to a chemical react in a big body of water that's really not even here? It's just a bunch of big empty space. Now, how stupid have we been? But we changed today, everybody. We're going to appreciate the stuff around us. We're going to admire things that focus. And we're going to inspire others to see those things. It's like, here we have the full moon. This is Elaine and Bruce's creativity. And here we have the sun setting. Or is it rising? I'm not really sure. But, you know, hey. Let's say it's the moon setting and the sun rising. No, the sun setting and the moon rising. Any way you want to look at it, somewhere in between these two, you're going to find yourself. You big bags of water. And my last point in this, realize this. If you look at geographically the earth, and you look at the amount of land mass and the amount of water, it's exact replica of this body. Your body is salt water. Has some chemicals in it, has a few little minerals in it, has some electrolytes, has some cell salts. The same as the ocean, and you're proportionately the same. So you're on many worlds. And if you look at it from a molecular point of view and from the mitochondrial cell point of view, you see that even more exacting proportionately. So we stop being and living in the illusion tonight. The world that you created, you did it. Because either you were to teach something or to learn something. Well, I have to learn that everything's not about me. Oh, God. It's going to be a tough day. The things you have to put up when you know you don't die. So in the Swami business, I would go to these programs with Raymond. And there were some interesting people out in the Swami business. One of my favorites was because I knew, and we wrote about it in this book, Secrets of the Light. The one that Harper sells is a different one, and I prefer that you buy that one. But Catherine and I wrote this book a decade ago. A decade. And it came out November of 2004, right? We wrote it in 2002 and 3. And it is now 2013, so 10 years ago. We wrote where we would be and what we wanted to try to create. Okay? You can't touch us. If you can read English and you can walk in our world, it's not perfect, but you can't touch us. Nothing has stopped us from our mission. Not even me. Now that is some heroic, aspirational, inspiring, creative genius on our part. Trust me. Let's give Mama a hand. All right, so it's 1988. When was the Hale Bop comment? 90. Yeah, 96 or 97. Wasn't it? Okay. There were some guys with some tennis shoes on that all went and gassed themselves in some place in California. I thought that was quite inspirational. Yeah, the world's going to come to an end, so we're going to put on some shoes and drink some Kool-Aid. Yeah, okay. Sounds good to me, you dumbass. No. So I decided to check out UFOs. You know, I never seen a UFO. I never seen no little tiny people. You know, the only thing I care about a UFO is if they will let me drive it. I come from South Carolina, man. We NASCAR people where I come from. All I want to know is how much gasoline does it take to get 90 million miles to come and buzz some cornfields in London and make crop circles. Okay, and let me take it around Mars with the pedal to the metal. Where is the steering wheel and where is the gas pedal? And if you want to poke me and stick some things in me, you know, and leave me naked on the side of the road and shit, that's all right. I've done that to myself. You know, all this stuff we hear about what happened to people, oh, they probed me and they poked me. Well, ain't none of that new to me. Huh? Just let me drive. And finally, you're breathing. If I don't make you people, lovely, wonderful people, laugh, you don't breathe. Now breathe. Come on, look. It never was really hard, everybody, but you're not doing it. We're shutting ourselves off because we're afraid. We're driven in a concept of fear and terror, and the world's going to come to an end, and Nibiru and some tall aliens are going to come, and they're going to poke needles in it, and the United States government made a deal with Eisenhower that they could come and take some cow butts, and, you know, ain't all that. They cut out the lips and cut out the anus and find them cows everywhere. You know, I don't want to meet none of them. So, can I have that chair right there? What? If you're not going to die, you know, everything, listen, when you know you're not going to die and you know you're not going to hell, what's everything based on? How entertaining it is. It's got to be entertaining or I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to hear it and I don't care. And if you've already seen heaven, there's only three reasons why you do anything. Having fun, getting to heaven, and making money. So it doesn't have anything to do with having fun, getting to heaven, and making money. I don't need to hear it. You can keep it to yourself. So I decided to check out UFOs, you know. So I go, and here's this little girl. She's pretty, nice. She has a little sweet voice. She says she's going to channel the Pleiadians. They have a mothership just above the earth. So she bows her head, and she says, I hope everybody will relax and take a few deep breaths. And she says, Gangnam Style. And then she goes, come on, stay with me. She says, we are coming to harvest you. Well, when you got harvesting, you got my attention. We are coming to harvest you. You will be assimilated. We're on an asteroid on our way to Earth. And here's what people doing. Oh, God. Jesus, God. And I'm checking it out, okay. So she went on about a few more minutes. And she said, any questions? I said, yeah, I got a question. What do you mean by harvesting us? Well, they've run out of food in their planetary system. I said, oh, so they're coming to eat us. All right. Now you're talking. Life is getting interesting, and this next near-death experience, if an alien's going to eat me, I won't get to come back. Ha! So I said, well, let me ask you something. How smart are these beings? Well, they're the smartest. They're Pleiadians. They're the smartest in the galaxy. I said, well, how tall do you think these things are? She said, well, they're between 11 and 17 feet tall. And they're reptilians. I said, okay. So what you're telling me is some really smart alligators are on their way to the Earth to eat me. And I should accept that. I said, well, the first thing I need, I said, are you communicating with them now? She said, yes, that's what the channel was. I said, well, okay. I need you to communicate with them and ask them, how in the hell do you drive an asteroid? An asteroid is a bunch of rock and ice being hurled through space from an exploded planet. And you got a bunch of 17-foot tall lizards on an asteroid hurling toward Earth. Now, can't you see? I said, well, how many of these alligators is on this planet? She said, about 17,000. I said, 17,000? I said, on an asteroid? I said, well, let me ask you something. How do you drive an asteroid? You got this block of rock and ice hurling through space at tens of thousands of miles an hour, and you got 17,000 10-foot, 20-foot tall lizards. What do they say? You say, wow, there's Mars. Wow, there's Jupiter. Because you got to keep moving and dodging. I said, now how do you expect them son of a bitches is going to land? So I said, well, let me ask you a question. You think you could get them to land in Florida? Because I was already thinking, Danion's gator bites. They would already be cooked when they got here. I just have to pick them up and box them with a biscuit. She didn't think I was funny as you thought I was. Come on. Then I figured if I could get him to land in Texas, I could sell Tony Llama the skins that'd already be cured. So I'd have dinner for sale and some new Tony Llamas. We're great, powerful, and mighty spiritual beings, everybody. We lived in dignity and grace. We choose to come because we think we can make a difference. And divinity thinks that we can. Well, if the divine believes that we're capable of doing it, then I believe that we are. Things are funny. Think about when I first, and I tell this story 1,000 times, but when I first started looking at this, they sent the preacher over to see me, because, I didn't know who my mother was about half the time, and you could be talking to me, you was my dad, and I'd say, now who are you? Because I was a little drifty, I was living in multidimensional realities, because it's a long way back from wherever I went to get back to here, and it was like 2 years. So I was sitting trying to figure out who invented fundamentalism. About God and Jesus and God and you're all going to hell and God and Jesus and blah, blah, blah. No, I was trying to figure this out. I said, because I didn't go to hell and I didn't die. So whoever told you, and God spoke to me last night and said, if you evil sinners don't put a lot of money in that plate, you're going to burn eternally. Well, think about it. If you're going to either be eternally damned or you're going to have eternal life, you're going to be alive somewhere. How can you be eternally damned and be dead? Who gives a crap? If I'm dead and you're going to eternally do something to me, oh God, that's so scary. Think about it. So I went to this fundamentalist church, and I was checking them out. They all had on suits, and they was all dressed up, but even the women had on tennis shoes. So they start to going. And this guy sitting in the back of me, he said, Jesus, 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 Jesus. So I punched the guy I was with, and I said, listen, you watch the back, I'll watch the front, and these son of a bitch starts passing snakes, I'm getting the hell out of here. Okay? That'd be enough of Jesus and God and all that. I'm out of this place. Jesus, God. So I had to figure out who invented fundamentalism. So after going to 3 or 4 more churches, I realized that the guy that had invented fundamentalism was the guy who had the patent on Preparation H. You ever see him on TV on Sunday? Do you know how much Preparation H that congregation has to buy on the way home? Think about it. And where did all that come from? Well, here's where it came from. There was a little girl in the Garden of Eden. She's walking around, and she sees a snake. Now, how many girls are you going to hang around that's going to hang around when they see a snake? None. And what happens if the snake starts to talk to you? Well, the first thing I thought Eve should do was catch that SOB. Put him in a little cage, and go around and see the talking snake. Just get out of spitting distance, but get a talking snake. And so the big basis of all this reality is a snake tried to talk a little girl into talking her boyfriend into eating an apple so he would realize he was naked. Isn't that what it says in the book of Genesis? Absolutely. So I decided to go to the Catholic church to see what them Catholics was doing. So I went over to the Catholic church, I sat down. Are you guys having fun? So I went over to the Catholic church. I'm checking it out. I couldn't figure out why everybody at Catholics was guilty, and suffering till I went over there. And then I figured it was a pretty nice little deal because they had these little things to prop your feet up on. You know, you can just lay back. You know, they play in this bar, call-off music. Do-do, do-do-do-do. You know? Then this guy comes out with a dress on and a dunce cap. Okay? And then we stand up. Then we sit down. Then we get down. Then we stand up. Then we sit down. Then we get down. Then we stand up. Then we sit down. Then we get down. Then we stand up. I only been there about 2 minutes. Okay? So how come you're so guilty when you're a Catholic? Because you get tired of standing up, getting down, standing up. So I said, now, I wonder who could have invented this. So I thought about it for a moment, and what I realized is Catholicism was invented by the guy who had the patent on arthritis, pain formula, etc. Because as soon as you got to the car, you ate about a half a bottle. Think about it. And then I quit getting up and getting down, you know. I couldn't understand anything the guy was saying. So I'm resting. Me and God was going to have to take a break. So when the guy with the dunce cap got done, here comes this guy with some sandals on. He's got this bucket, and it's on fire. So I'm checking him out. He's swinging this pot. And he's saying, my daddy plays dominoes better than your daddy. At least that's what it sounded like to me. I said, now, what's this got to do with it? So I figured that the person who invented Catholicism also had the patent on dress stand. See what happens when you don't die? Watch where you are. I take on everything that's supposed to frighten us. No, that's true. There is nothing that can frighten immortality. It's that lack of commitment to, what is it? Compassion. No. I'm learning. Courageous compassion. Look up the words in the dictionary, everybody. To be compassionate in this period of time, when so much everything is collapsed, takes courage. To realize that you're connected to each other. And they're connected to you. What do you think about? What do you will? If you're protecting you, then include everybody else. Not just yourself. In this new cycle, I, me, will not work. Us and we will work. Because science has proven, unequivocally, without any question, we are all connected. What do we wish for everybody? I wish a sense of humor. I wish to love to face whatever someone thinks can affect our immortality. So when my dad came in after I was going through like the third or fourth near-death experience, I had like one every 10 years or less, because I get off track. Am I any different from you? But I already been over there, everybody. Feel my relationship. You think they scare me? I keep waiting for them to tell me, well, if you come over here, you can't go back. Yeah, okay. So the third time, when I had to have brain surgery, I spent 41 hours in recovery because I couldn't wake up because I was way over there. But somebody must have said, well, where you are now, you can't go back. Ha! So on the 41st hour, I woke up and had a massive grand mal seizure. And they put me in life support in the neurocardiac ward. I thought it was, well, we'll teach you, try this. But I knew I was going to have Catherine and Allie and a whole herd of magical women, and Evan, who got married and ran away from us. And it was worth the journey. So today, when we take a breath, what do we appreciate? Everybody else. You appreciate everybody else. And once you do that, you won't be so protective of something that has instilled fear and control. Fear and control. And as we move into this new paradigm, we have to keep on remembering the old traditions. And I want everybody to come up and please look at this when we get done. And feel it and know that you participated. And what else I want you to do is remember laughter. Somewhere between the moon rising and the sun setting, or the sun rising and does the moon set? Okay, and the moon setting is we're right here. What do we draw from the light? And what do we instill in the darkness? So this is the breath where we breathe in. And this is the breath that we breathe out. So we breathe in for ourselves so that our energy flows and our bodies function and we carry oxygen to our brains and we do all this. And in the darkness we send light. Remember, the moon is the reflection of the light of the sun. And you kind of hear that in Christendom because it all goes back to these two things. But if we realize that that's a part of what we're functioning in, we are in control. We're in control. Breathe. I swear, I'm going to get me a Sears catalog or a phone book. You'll be breathing after about that second or third whop you get. I think my mother used to use the Sears and Roebuck catalog, but I wasn't quite as fast as my brother. And since I usually started it, my brother would get to the door first and he would stand there where I couldn't get out, so I got the first 3 or 4 whacks, and he would laugh and take off. So no one's going to ever die. It's not going to happen. So what are we going to do now? We're going to be courageously compassionate. And ever what you decide to do with your life in being courageously compassionate is up to you. But just keep in mind, it's affecting me and everybody else. And when you have a life review, when you have it, you want to be able to look and see that it wasn't courageous compassion. No, is that right? That it wasn't courageous compassion that was driving you. It just was doing what was right in a time when you were being depended on. We are depended on with all our aches and pains in all the things that we've gone through, the divine still holds us precious in this light in this time between last night and tomorrow night, and then the next 19 years. So when Kat and I wrote this book, we put the fourfold path. We wrote a lot of really cool stuff in Secrets of the Light. We took every situation that I had discovered or what people would describe as a problem, and we put a truth, a way at which you could take it and frame the debate. Okay? What's wrong in your life? Okay? I'm going to lose someone. Well, there's a world after this. Okay? Well, where was I before I came here? Well, there's a world before this. Well, what's my purpose? You choose to come and you're chosen to come, and each one is defined. But what's the most important to live by and you begin this next 19 years is this, everybody. Everything is about love. And I'll use the Greek. We use the Greek in the book. Phile, friendship. Friendship. Eros, what creates, it draws the magnetism that draws people to each other in love. And agape, the divine inner flow between us and everything else that is happening. Pure love. And then second, what do you believe about your love? The biggest crisis that's happening to everybody now is you don't place a value on your love before you give it. So what you do is you wait for someone to give it back to you before you have a value of the love you gave. Well, it never happens. Because no one understands your spiritual divinity unless that's the intention by which you send it. If you have a belief about your love that's in a divine spiritual way, and that's the reason why you're giving something, then what a person does in reaction gives you the ability to decide whether you want to keep doing it or whether you don't. Because that brings you to the choices that you make. Because if you have a belief system in your love, then the choices that you make will be a lot closer than if you don't. And you'll see the choices, and then prayer. Like I hope everybody has a prayer for each other. And that we use willful, conscious intent. Not, oh Lord, please just let me get through it. I swear if you just let me get through it this time, I swear I won't never do it again. Oh God, please help me. It was Danny's fault. I was listening to him, I read it, one of his books and stuff, and I didn't know, you know. Willful, that I'm completely aware of what I'm doing. Conscious, that I have the ability to affect things with my mental self. Intent, the reason why I do it. Let's go. Have you noticed how much more you've been breathing in the last 6 minutes? Feel the energy in the room. It bathes you. You're not separate from it. It bathes you. So for all those who have come that are veterans, you have my heart. And for all those who gave their lives so that we could have this long weekend, we hope they hear us too. That we are grateful. That they were willing to serve and protect our identity and who we are. And that we show gratitude. And we've done that tonight. That's pretty courageous compassion. So when your life passes before you, and you get to the point where you become everybody that you've ever encountered, there'll be a person that you will see that you have never met. But because we took this time at this moment, at this place, and this part in history, to focus on what this weekend is really about, and that we're expressing gratitude. And in our hearts, we're not against war, we're just for peace. If you live where I live in the world of veterans, and for all those us as veterans, you know we were not designed to organize to fight each other. It is inhumane, and it is a moral injury. What happens to people who fight, at a certain point it becomes a moral injury. They call post-traumatic stress disorder a moral injury. So, in our hearts and in our ideas and in our thoughts, let's begin to be for peace. You know, let that be the beginning of the night, that we are for peace, and that we hope wherever it's not, that that place is found. Because the most peaceful place that we're all trying to find is inside each other. You're searching for the peace within. Me, all I have to do is wait for my life to pass before me again. You know, and then I'll get to see all the stuff, you know, like Catherine told me I couldn't tell you this, but I was bad. And she's going to be mad because I tell you, but let me show you what real love is. She said, well, you're going to have to do something, you know, I want you to get out on a bended knee and tell me you're sorry. I look at her, and I reach over and get 3 pillows off the couch so I don't have to get down too far. And I got on a bended knee and I apologized. I just thought when my life passed before me and I get a chance to be that, how excited I'm going to be. And the last thing that I hope that you get is my sense of humor. I mean, I'm a little weird, but if you've been dead and hit in the head by lightning and open heart surgery and brain surgery, you got to give me some latitude. But my relationship with that spiritual world is, I hope, has been reflected this day in my family and in you. That there's a sense of peace and a relationship that I can make fun of everything that supposedly is supposed to scare you. I can make fun of it. Well, I've already been through it. But let it be that we forgive something about ourselves. That we forgive something about ourselves. And when you forgive something about yourself, you have automatically entered a state of grace or gratitude. And from a state of grace or gratitude, what do you think you'll be able to see? Thank you. Okay, this gentleman has a question. Yeah, wait a minute. I got a mic, man. I want everybody to hear this. Come on. Your name?
Jim.
Jim?
Is this thing on?
Just keep talking.
Okay, I'll keep talking. At what point in human history did we lose, did we become so serious about death and fear it as opposed to see other portions of it or the humor of it?
Edict Nice 325. There was 3 edicts by the church. When Justinian decided to create the way to hold everything together, and he saw Christianity as a byproduct of the Hebrews. And so when they were translating the Hebrew Bible into Greek, he saw that he could capture a concept of the old Greek history that would empower the Roman Empire. So you had the Edict of Nicaea in 325, where they brought 1,000 manuscripts together to create the 70 72 books of the Bible, which we now use 66 in the Christian form. And then they had the Edict of Milan that came in 348. Okay, and what happened to that in 500? They decided to take reincarnation out of the Bible in 500 because the Pope figured if you thought that you couldn't pay penance because you could get to come back, then they weren't in control. And at that point, the separation of fire and brimstone and death, and if you don't do what I'm going to say, but at the real point that it became a conscious pattern in our life was around 1315. There's a little German fellow named Johann Gutenberg, and he created a printing press. And what he was about to create with the printing press is the ability for everybody to create the mortal sin up until then, because you were not allowed to read the Bible. It was a sin, punishable excommunication, and eternal damnation if you if you personally read the words of the Scripture and didn't have the church interpret it, because then you could form opinions. Well, Gutenberg messed that up. So the Pope at that time, I think it was Clement II, it might have been Leo, because Clement II and Leo X are right there together, it kind of crosses over. So the Pope read Dante's Inferno. And if you go read Dante's Inferno today and you listen to a fundamentalist Baptist, it's a perfect description. So the Pope overlaid hell, which is only mentioned 8 times in the Bible. 6 times, when you hear about it, most is Jesus talking about it, but he's talking about the trash pit outside of Gethsemane, where they burned all the trash, and all the criminals, once they were crucified, they threw them in the fire and burned them. That's where the eternal burning and the eternal damnation, hell concept. And then when you listen to the Dante's Inferno, it's going to rip your flesh, and you're going to burn. Okay. The only other time that comes about is in hell is when the legions of Jesus comes back. That same story. He's going to come back and he's going to smite down the Timothy Geithner, whoever it is, one of those evil people, the Rockefellers, or the Rothschilds, whoever, when it comes to pull that game. Then it was they were going to throw the morning star, Lucifer, in this burning pit of hell, and he would burn for eternity. Well, what they did was, around 1300, they decided they was going to throw everybody in that pit. It wasn't just going to be Satan and all them fallen angels. You going to go with him, okay? Yeah. All right. So that's when that occurred, and then we began to think about duality. Am I good or bad? Okay. In the South where I come from, do you know how you can tell the difference between a Baptist and a Methodist? A Methodist will speak to you in the liquor store.
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, and they might have on, and listen, while they're shopping, they might have on some lipstick. And they might even be dancing up and down the aisles. Well, that's a Methodist if you come from where I come from. Any other questions? Is that a good answer? Yeah. Come on, a couple of more questions and then we can get out of here. Well, you have to come up here. I mean, I need everybody to be looking at you. They're all over America and all over the world watching you on TV, so I might as well get the most out of it. This will be American Idol before it's over. Say your name.
My name is Norma, and I've read your book, and
thank you.
What I wanted.
That means you got 2 more to read. You read my book. That means there's 2 more, maybe 3 more.
Okay. But when I read your book, I said to myself, if I ever saw you, I wanted you to take my pulse.
Sure. Fold your fingers on my fingers. Okay, I would say 2 things. You're in between losing somebody. Someone has recently passed, and you're facing losing someone else, and you're right where you're trying to figure out what to do with you. I've lost a part of my love, and now the other part, what helped me grow to be me, is about to pass or heading that way, and you have to decide what you're supposed to do about it. Okay? The first thing is you're not taking care of yourself, worrying yourself to death. The second thing is it's a daughter. I think she's a second child, not a first child, the one that's driving you crazy. She probably was like me because I'm the second child. But what you have to do is leave her alone. You have done everything that you can possibly do. Okay? Now she has to find her own way. She has to, and it's not tough love. It's empowering her. What you mamas, y'all are, oh, come on, let me save you. Look, I'm going to save you from, here's everything I got. Come on, I'm going to cut off one of my arms. Can't y'all understand how good I am? Oh. Well, you need to read the other 3 books, but but the point is in this time period, there are no secrets. And it's about your love. And when you lose someone and you're worrying about losing someone else, you should be the one being taken care of, not you taking care of them. Okay, you got one crazy one, and then you got 2 that's kind of balanced or appear to be balanced. And then you got one that's not quite yours. It's like a grand, one quite like yours that you feel you're responsible for. Yeah. Okay, well, you are not responsible. You're not responsible. That way you can care. Do not let them get away with piling that off on you, because all of that should be taken care of you. Okay, so would you tell people in Saved when you read about taking a pulse?
What part in your book I read about it?
Okay, and when taking someone's pulse, what would have happened?
You were on their bedside, and you got an insight of their future, and
what was going on around them?
What is going on around them?
Did that just now happen?
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so that's your best close right there. Learn to laugh. Learn to find whatever's joyous and embrace it. And what's not joyous, set a value of it. And then let it show you if you should continue to participate. Let it show you. Not that you've got to. Okay? I know 1,000 times more of what was just going on in that interaction. But that's not the whole world's. But if you see that I can do it, you can do it. And I can do all that stuff. I can talk to people on the other side. Hell, I'm over there most of the time anyway. At least that's what Catherine says. She looks at me, she says, "You're not here." I said, "Honey, I'm going 85 down the interstate." She said, "But you're looking out of the window, hoping I don't see that magazine you got on the floor, reading it, turning the pages with your foot." Busted. But the key's your breathing. The golden gift is your breath. And to pace it. Nothing spiritually ever happens except in between. When you breathe in, you have to hold it before you breathe out. When you breathe that air in, before it comes out, it appears as though it's a continuation, but there's not. When you breathe in and you hold it 1001 or 1002, you give the universe more time to figure out how to guide and empower you into the energy that you're going to breathe out. So when you breathe, and you hold it just a moment, you give the universe more time, and then you breathe out into the world. So your breath is your power. It's your gift. I can take one more question, and then Karen says they're going to throw us out of here. Somebody hit me with something tough. Not Christian mythology. I mean, you got to come up here. I mean, if I got to stand up here and be on TV everywhere in the world, so do you. You have a what? A really tough. A real world. I need to know who you are and turn around and a real world question. I'm in the real world question.
So I want to be sure that I understood what you were talking about today. I don't need to live in fear. When the banks crash and everything falls apart and collapses, I don't need to save food and water and a bag of coins in the backyard.
Well, I'd have some beanie weenies and some sardines and some saltine crackers. You know, maybe a couple of jugs of water. I mean, let's don't get crazy, but remember, the banks have, watch, in the real world, because we live in a universe that's globalization. Because if you can control the food supply, the only thing left is to control the healthcare supply. They already control the food supply because the world food comes from everywhere in the world. So you keep enough for safety. We have bags of rice, because the rice hull, not the rice, the grain, but the hull is the most nutritious other than hemp. So I have bags of hemp powder. I have bags of rice powder. And all we need is to take some water out of the swimming pool and run it through the strainer and mix it in and shake it up. And I can go 2 years. Again, you got a couple of gallons of water. I can get that out of the swimming pool to put in the toilet downstairs. Just got to take turns peeing. But, you know, I like to pee in the backyard myself, you know. I do. All guys like to pee in the backyard. It's a thing. Okay, so look, the United States collapsed in 1861 because you couldn't reach a quorum. It collapsed in 1898. It collapsed in 1929. It collapsed in 1934. And it collapsed in 2008. And we're still here. And is there a new currency coming? And should the banks collapse? You're damn right. Should the IRS collapse? You're damn right. I'd rather build out of the ashes than keep living in this illegitimate, evil, contrived, fear-based garbage. Whatever's next, just deal it on up.
Thank you.
So when I was a little kid, so we close, take a deep breath. Look at the person to your right. Okay, your other right. No, everybody, y'all are some funny spiritual beings. Look at the person to your right and send them love. And then look at the person to your left and send them love. And just imagine that they are you. Wait now. Imagine that they are you. And we're all in this little tiny matchbox. And if we all can fit in a little tiny matchbox, how far away is that love from you? Not even a breath. And how far away, in my final comment, since we probably finished, none of you have ever left heaven. It is scientifically, metaphysically, and spiritually impossible to not be connected to the divine and be a part of heaven. And God has a new name, dark matter. Don't you love scientists? God has a name, dark matter. You have never left heaven, and it is impossible to do that. So wherever you think you're going to go back to is the place you already are. It's just your attitude in courageous compassion. It's your attitude in courageous compassion that holds you there. I know I am the exact same place I traveled to. I don't feel the sensual love of it because the part of my job here is to separate from that. To separate so that I can experience all the things of hopes and dreams and wishes and forgiveness and blessings and caring and concern. And the biggest reason that you get tricked into coming here is this. Well, let me tell you what, Dan. If you go down there, I'll let you pretend you're God. You get to forgive people, you get to inspire people, you get to cradle people, you get to tell them it's okay, and you can be me. I'm falling for it. It sounds pretty good, God. And guess what? Not only when you get down there, we're going to let you be afraid of some stuff. You're going to have to make it up. And then you're going to have to get a bunch of other friends, other spiritual beings down there that you got to talk to them, so you all got to collectively get scared of something. And then you're going to have to believe that you are not always with me. Sounded pretty good. He left out the part, but every 10 or 15 years, I'm going to have to kill you and bring you back over here just because you's a hard-headed little prick. Gratitude, love, and blessings. Because if you've never left heaven, look at what we've been filling it with. Fear and war, stupidity and arrogance. That's what has to change. That's what has to change. To all those who have served in this country who lived, we give you our love. And to all those who served in this country who passed in honor of it, we seek you to be guided safely to the other side and know that you're loved and honored and respected in this gathering this night. And to each of you who lived this day, who chose to make sure you are going to be a part of the solution and not the problem. Today, you can know you're a part of the solution. On time, in a precise place and time and moment, as sacred and traditions as you can get. And just like the gentleman that asked questions, do you think I do not know where we are and what time it is in the universe just based on him asking me that question about Christian history? Think about it. Hit me with a hard one. Because if you kill me, I'm going to get really interested in it. And if you kill me 2 or 3 times, I'm looking for that snake right now. I need to have a little chat with that snake. So as you get ready to take a breath and walk by this altar and look at it and see it as you go, I send you my love, and I am so thankful that you came here this night. Please go out and look at this stuff that Elaine has. And if you brought a lot of money, buy all the paintings so the sun can come up and the moon can go down. Give Karen a big kiss. She took off that chartreuse thing and put on a white thing so you wouldn't recognize her. But give her a good kiss, and thank you so much for being here. Please come in.